everyone, and welcome to Geekly Talks Comics. I'm Gary Driscoll, Archer on the website and forum, and today my esteemed guest.
Hi, I'm Anastasia Catris, and I am a comic book artist.
Hi, I'm Jack Baker, and I'm a home cinema installer.
And now, on to our first subject, and we've been waiting with bated breath. Is Superman's bulge more or less pronounced now that he has the new outfit in the comics? Discuss.
I think the only thing that makes it more obvious is the fact that you're looking for the red pants.
Yeah.
I suppose because you miss the red pants so much, you do automatically focus.
Because we've seen them for so long.
Exactly, because you're so used to them, you sort of do automatically focus there a little bit. And obviously the film costume and all that sort of thing, it's sort of brought it more into the...
And the massive cup on the film costume as well, it's just there.
Yeah, it's pretty much turned into a bit of a David Bowie and Matt Ridd sort of situation, hasn't it? You can't not look away, it's like a car crash.
Yeah. The amount of staff I had, like, in my job, who were just sitting as soon as Henry Cable turned up the screen, like, woo! In the staff screen, woo! And then he turned up in the costume and everyone went silent, and all you just heard was the girls just catcalling. I was like, oh, okay. They like the new costume.
Do you think it was done for that reason? You know, in the comics? And
I think it is for him, because he's bulked up for the role. So I think they have clearly done it, just like, yeah, this isn't just, painted on abs. Mm-hmm. He has clearly bulked up, so we're going to just paint this costume on him.
I think with the costumes in the comics, though, I think it's almost to take away from the old school, like, man wearing pants over tights sort of look, because obviously you've got the Wonder Woman fiasco with her changing her costume. It is a stigma. Yeah, so they're obviously changing their costumes quite a bit to try and modernise them and stuff, and they have to go through. I think they're probably going to stick to this now, getting rid of the pants.
Yeah, so Kryptonians apparently have the need to have a massive, here it is. We are men, we are Kryptonian. Has Colossus got a big bulge in the comics?
They pretty much all do in the comics.
Yeah.
Early on, very much so. Yeah. Depending on who's drawing it, obviously.
I've got to be honest.
In the 90s, Jesus Christ, the bulges.
That raises a question. Does the costume have to be reinforced when he goes metal because extra weight?
I'd imagine rubber pants.
Rubber spandex?
Rubber spandex or rubber pants stretches. It's a bit like the purple pants with Hulk. Why does he always have purple trousers?
Yeah.
Why do they only rip in the calves?
Yeah, they don't rip anywhere else.
The waist goes massive.
Everything else gets massive, and the trousers just stay miraculously on.
On the ring of the area, he's always got 3/4 lengths on, hasn't he?
Yeah. Even when a character turns into like a creature, like a werewolf or something, John Jameson turns into a werewolf, still has perfectly cut trouser shorts every time it happens. Serious topic. New comics. All the publishers, obviously the big two, DC, Marvel, and the smaller publishers, Dynamite, IDW, Top Cow, Dark Horse. What do we think? Is comics easier to get into now for new fans? People who maybe watched the movies or have heard things from older siblings or cousins have said, these are characters you love. Do you think it's easier for them to jump in now? Or is it harder to jump in?
I think it is.
Yeah?
Yeah, well there's large generations now of comic readers, and the kids sort of grow up open-minded, grow up reading comics, and then my son reads comics, and plus movies as well, the way there's so many comics to be made.
Was there any specific ones you recommended to your son, with ones you liked and maybe start on these, or did you just...
Yeah, they tend to be, he'd pick up mine, like in my collection, like Uncanny X-Men and stuff, in the 90s, and Wolverine, I picked up that. And Batman sort of got into it, even though I was reading it, not heavily, but he sort of got into that himself. So it tends to be that there's already such an established comic fan base that it passes on to the kids, passes on to friends. Friends of mine have read comics because of me, and in a time really, I suppose, and it was in the 90s where it was a bit frowned upon. It was. I suppose it is for every generation, but it really was for mine.
Yeah, it's that image we're constantly combating of the Revenge of the Nerds image of long trench coats. I was going to say, thank God my hair's cut short. I was going to say long hair, glasses. I was like, shit, I'm describing myself.
I think nowadays it's definitely an easy time to get into comics because of the films and because everything's become so mainstream.
It's trendy.
Yeah. It is trendy. It's cool now. Like it's chic and all that sort of stuff. You can in America you can just literally go into a newsagent's and get most of your sort of top comics at the moment. The only thing I would say about the films is they're kind of making people step away from the minor characters.
Yeah.
So even though you've got your Batmans and your Avengers was great because obviously they've got Hawkeye and the sort of lesser known characters in there for people who are getting into it from the mainstream. But you sort of like, you're not hearing about the sort of lesser known characters and the things like Dark Horse and stuff like that because of the films. So while you get into the mainstream stuff, you're sort of forgetting about the ones that maybe don't have as much of a limelight.
So, Sin City was also awesome.
Sin City was amazing. Sin City was amazing, but it wasn't a standalone film. I think it was great. But the thing is that it used the comics as a screenplay, essentially. So it was an exact adaptation, which is fantastic. But you may as well read the comics. It didn't do anything independent. That's what the one thing about films is they're a different medium to comics. You can go somewhere different with films. You can have the Black Widow, Hawkeye relationship if you want to. It doesn't have to bleed back into the comics and vice versa.
No.
Because films are different to comics. Books are different to films. You're meant to take them separately.
It's getting the adaptation right. The thing with Sin City, to go on to that though, Frank Miller, he read it and just went, wow, this is it. He never thought that the books could be done, and that was it. He was just like, nope, I'm happy.
After about how many years of Robert Rodriguez trying to get him into doing it in the first place?
Well, I think he was waiting for technology to catch up. And once that happened, once he could literally do a moving version of the book, that was it. Frank Miller was completely on with it. A style that he then used to adapt The Spirit, which, although not really loved by critics, I personally loved it, was very clearly a love letter to the old comics, a love letter to the old style of superhero stories, where it is a bit daft, it is a bit campy, but the hero's a hero. There's no moral conundrums, there's no sort of grey areas, he's a hero, he goes out, this is what he does. The bad guy is the bad guy.
I think the thing with the film adaptations of comics is that it means that Hollywood is dictating to us what comics we should go out and read.
Yeah.
And whereas Sin City was a great choice, Hellboy was a great choice. Those are ones that people wouldn't probably have heard of unless the films came out, and that, like, unless you're either an avid comic book fan or you hear about the films and you see them and you love them. Another example would be The Crow. Perfect example.
I was just literally thinking that example.
It's an indie comic, but it got made into a fantastic film, and people went out and got that comic and realised, wow, this is a fantastic comic, and now that's being made again.
That could have been done so badly. I met James O'Barr at Kirk Comic Con. I just have to give that shout out because I love the man so much.
How's that one?
Word, that's right. I said to him, I said, look, thank you so much. Because I don't know if he's aware of this, but at the time, obviously that is a very personal story to him. And this story is proof that Hollywood execs have no idea how to adapt any original source. He was in a meeting, I'm assuming at a table like this, and the execs were pitching the idea, and someone was like, oh, I know. Now, you've got to remember, this is early 90s, I think this is like 91. Someone says, let's make it a musical. Genuinely, let's make The Crow a musical. And he's just sitting there going, okay, I'm going to see how this pans out. And someone's like, yeah, I know. Let's get Michael Jackson to play the lead.
Is that literally just the makeup?
No.
That's got to be the only reason that
it's because they wanted a musical of The Crow with Michael Jackson as Eric Durden because, and I quote, he was popular at the time and he was a singer-dancer. That was what he wanted. And James O'Barr just got up and he says, no, I'm out of here. And they're like, where are you going? And he's like, no, look, you don't understand my book. You've clearly not read it. I'm gone.
But that's what I'm saying, that's the problem with the getting into comics because of the films, is that it is being dictated by these people. It's being dictated by the money. So it's a case of they're always going to be remaking Batman and Superman because they know those are their two big ones. And yet Wonder Woman still hasn't been made yet. It's just one of those things, and Avengers has done. Sorry. And Avengers has done fantastically, and all of those characters are going to do fantastically off of it. But what about the other Marvel heroes that we're not going to hear from? X-Men's probably going to keep on going, which is great because it's an ensemble cast, so you can have spin-offs from that. But it's Fantastic Four is dead in the water. It's a perfect example of a movie that just didn't do as well as they'd hoped.
Yeah, the big thing that we keep getting when you chat to people about comics is, I want to read, but it's too many stories. I don't know where to jump on.
The problem with things like DC at the moment, they're all over the place. They're reaching into different comics and going, so it makes it difficult for some people to find where they want to go.
Villains Month's a perfect example. You've got characters who have appeared in one book, such as Cyborg Superman has appeared in Supergirl. In his Villains Month, he's now in Superman. Trade paperbacks again is another great thing because, as you say, with DC now especially, they're doing them in order. So if a book starts at issue 1, that trade paperback will be the first 5-6 issues, and the next volume will be the next 5-6 issues. So that's quite a good way for people to jump in. But I mean, what do you think?
I think personally the way I jumped into certain stories, because I was collecting from when I was about 10 or 11, I was collecting X-Men.
Yeah.
And that's one of the most confusing things to start off with, because obviously there's so much backstory and so many characters all over the place. As soon as I discovered graphic novels, I actually stopped getting comics as regularly, just simply because it was a great way of getting a graphic novel, reading it almost like a book, and just following the story as and when it was sort of collected together, and that really helped me sort of keep up to date with those stories. So personally, graphic novels were a godsend to me, and especially with Batman and things like that. And you know that there are some great jumping on points with those as well, because they have independent stories. You don't have to know all the lore. Like a good example would be like The Long Halloween. It's a really good graphic novel, independent of whether you know them or not. Yeah. So you know, there's loads of collections out there that'll help you get into it.
Jeff, what about you, sir?
I'd say big graphic novels definitely, especially with Batman's. But I'm buying the Judge Dredd reprints at the moment. I'm enjoying them. That's a good way to get into it. Even though I've read them, I've got the original 2000 ADs, but it's nice.
And they're going from the very beginning as well, and it's just fantastic.
Which is great.
I have read the 2000 AD. I've got to love, as you say, they're very conscious of people jumping on. They're doing it from the start.
Yeah,
right
that's it.
So
And doing it in a really
I got 001
faithful way as well, which I'm enjoying at the moment. So yeah, it's very good.
So would you recommend Judge Dredd and picking those, or what character would you recommend in the best book to turn on?
Well, what you said, you know, with the X-Men titles and with Batman as well, you know, they're sort of complete stories in their own right. So, and it always dwells back on his past and how he started. Anyway, pretty much in every single one, even Gotham by Gaslight, and they've all got that take on it. But I'm enjoying the Judge Dredd ones. That's a great one. It's a good character as well. The British sort of comic, even though it's an American character. But I would say the Judge Dredd ones I like.
Awesome. Right. Next topic. Most ridiculous superhero sidekick in comics.
There are lots.
They're pretty much sidekicks in general, I think. Quite.
Sidekicks are they're a funny thing, aren't they? They're just sort of brought in as like a way of not having the inner monologue all the time. I guess.
I think it was they were brought in. Sidekicks were brought in as they thought it would get all the teenagers on at the time.
That's it.
Get kids and get teenagers under the comics.
But nobody wants to be a sidekick. That's the thing. Is like when you're a kid or you're a teenager reading the comics, you don't want to be the sidekick. You want to be the hero. So you know it does bring in the kids.
You've always got to make you can be the sidekick.
Yeah. The unfortunate mate.
What about the sidekick that becomes a hero themselves?
Well, as in Nightwing and things like that, I suppose. Yeah, that's a good example.
Yeah.
But I think I suppose the sidekick in training to be a hero is a good one. But
there's been some truly awful sidekicks as well, which have just been shut
down.
Worst sidekick.
One that stands out for me is D-Man.
D-Man.
Yes. Okay. The only reason he stands out for me is he used to help Captain America. And he used to wear like a Wolverine costume, which I couldn't abide at all. He was like a cross between Wolverine and Daredevil, which is like the strange thing. He was a pro wrestler, as far as I can remember. This was going quite far back. But he was absolutely useless. Just useless.
And he helped the Captain. When was that?
I can't remember. God, I'm sure it was in my teens, and I was reading. I wasn't massively into Captain America, but I remember seeing him once just by the costume. I thought it was Wolverine first of all. I thought it was actually Wolverine. But he had like a drawstring top. Imagine a Wolverine costume with a drawstring top, same sort of physique. And he's a pro wrestler. And he was just absolutely useless. He's terrible. And he always stood it one line.
You need a pro wrestler.
He foisted himself upon Captain America more than actually in taking it on.
Because basically Bucky was off being long haired in Russia, committing assassinations. That was why Bucky wasn't back yet. This is why like Cap needs a sidekick. Cap needs a Bucky, so we'll give him a pro wrestler Bucky. You know, somebody watched that and was like, "Oh, what's the kid watching today? Oh, they're watching WWF. Oh, okay, right, pro wrestler."
Yeah. Saying that, there have been a lot of wrestling cameos in comics, haven't there? Just like sort of random little wrestling cameos.
It's when the wrestlers actually have their own comics. And WWF had their own line in comics. So you had the Undertaker as a horror comic. Kane as like wielding a giant scythe. You know, I think Stone Cold Steve Austin was like a biker comic.